Welcome to Season 2 of In the Vine Dating Podcast with host Melissa Chavez, joined by Yesenia, Denise, and Shekinah. This season, we'll be discussing different topics such as premarital intercourse, soul ties, and the importance of servanthood. And of course, discussing our upcoming dating mixers and events. For more information, you can visit our website at www.inthevinedating.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to show your support and like, share, and subscribe.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to In the Vine Dating. It's your host, Melissa Chavez, and here with me I have...
Yessie.
Do you change, bro, or what?
I changed to the same outfit because I loved it so much. Let's just address the elephant out of the room right now.
And the makeup is exact as last week.
I had to. I had to. Same outfit because I loved it so much. I did. This whole month we're celebrating the...
You wore this the whole month, every day.
Every
Agape
day.
love.
I don't even wash my face.
I love it. Sorry, go ahead.
And Shekinah.
Tinkerbell today.
Tinkerbell, yeah,
Tinkerbell
today
today.
she's Tinkerbell. So as you guys know, we are missing Denise for another episode. However, she will be back next week, and we'll be all together again. So Denise, we miss you, and we can't wait to have you here, girl, so that you can impart your wisdom to your
Hard-working woman.
hardworking woman. Okay, so how are you ladies doing? Oh, wait. I have to announce our fourth member today. With us again, we have Ramzy. Hello, Ramzy.
Hello. I'm also wearing the same exact thing.
That's right. He is. Let's get the other elephant out of this room.
Even though you can't see it.
I thought I wasn't going to say it. But just in case you guys were wondering what Ramzy's wearing.
It's in his
So that
mind.
Denise doesn't feel left out.
Yeah. He is also wearing a Valentine's Day outfit. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I do that. Why would you? I shouldn't. We're gonna keep going. That was good. It's because Jesse's laughing like that because she doesn't want to admit that he's also wearing that same sweater. We're twins.
Who wore it better?
Yeah, that's why she didn't take it off. She didn't want to let go of her turf. Okay. Anyway, so we have Ramzy here with us today. Okay, so ladies, we just listened to Pastor Adriana's interview. What was some of your favorite parts? What did you think? You can.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry. Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, goodness. Pastor Adriana's just, like, she's amazing, honestly. And so just to hear her, I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to interview her. Because it was just, we talk about her so much between her and my mom. Like, all the wisdom that you guys are hearing on this podcast, that's like, being birthed from that. Like,
We're just copy pasting, to be honest.
Pretty much, yeah. And so, yeah, I love that aspect of it. And so I loved that we get to share with our audience where all of this is coming from. And that's really the heart of this, is being birthed from their ministry and their calling.
I agree. Yes.
I thought her interview was hilarious.
It was so funny.
It was so fun. I think that's pretty much her essence. Like, she loves to be entertained, but she is so entertaining herself. And I just love her high spirit energy and how she says things like, I'm just going to keep it real. I'm going to be myself. And then she was giving her your nicknames. But she didn't give all of them.
I know. She has so many nicknames for me. It's so freaking funny.
I was waiting for them, but I had a fun time, actually. I thought it was hilarious, and I really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I think that was one of my most fun interviews that I had the pleasure of doing. Pastor Adriana, she just knows how to be real, you know?
Yeah.
That's really all she knows how to do. So
And command a room.
Yeah. I always say my favorite memory of her, because, you know, Pastor Adriana, when I first came into the church, like up here, right? Like that lady was just, I mean, she still is, but now I get to drive with her a little bit more. But so I was a little bit more scared of her at the beginning. And so I remember we were going to like this little Mary Kay event, and she was eating a chicken leg, okay? Just because she was so hungry. And we were walking in, I hope she doesn't kill me for saying this, but but I just love it because it
If
was.
Melissa's not here next week.
Now you know what happened. But so she finished eating it, and we are about to enter, and, Mary Kay. So everybody was like done up, like it was a thing, and so was she, right? But she like takes the chicken wing. She's like, "What do I do with it?" And I was like, I don't know. I was just happy to be there. Like I didn't. And so then she like wraps it in a napkin and like stuffs it in her purse. I was like, yes. In that moment, like all my guards went down. Like I was like, this lady's real. I was caught so off guard. And so from then, like it's literally my favorite, most ingrained memory of her.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was the best. So diving into Pastor Adriana's interview, one of my favorite things that I want to draw out from her interview was her go-to advice for single people, right? Which I'm sure this lady could write a book about all the things that she's walked single people, married people through. And so I was really interested in seeing what she would say. And so she narrowed it down to 3 things, which I think was a gift, the fact that she said 3 things. And so we're just going to break them down little by little. So I'm going to start with one of the first things that she said was that the person, or as a woman, the person that you should seek to marry or even enter into a courting relationship with should be a protector. And so what do you ladies think about that? I'm going to start with Yessie.
Okay, I was like, are you throwing a curveball? Are you going to say Shekinah but stare at me?
Stare at you.
I know in 1 Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind, and at the very end it says it always protects, right? And so I think that's a true example of what actually loving somebody is, right? And a man, I mean, not just us, like as wives or as somebody you're dating, but you always want to make sure you protect the other person. And she said protector, not just physically, but in all areas. And
Yes.
someone who protects your heart won't put things on display for everyone to see so they can criticize you. They'll protect that. They'll be able to understand your heart and nourish it and protect you from things that would arise.
Yeah.
And also not put you in situations that you would feel uncomfortable, that you will feel unheard or unseen, and they would want to make sure that you're always well taken care of. Like, I know something. Again, my husband, he has been working on a lot of things, and I can say he's truly excelled in this area of checking in on me. Regardless of where we're at, he checks in and, hey, are you okay? Do you want me to bring you some water? Do you want me to go get you something? Do you need anything? Like, you want me to take care of the baby? Like, he's been very intentional with that, because at the very beginning when we were dating, he wasn't at all. So he's definitely worked in that area, and that area, it really showed me like he's protecting me. He's making sure that I'm well taken care of. But not only that, like, it doesn't matter where we're at, he'll still do that. And I feel like, okay, I feel like there's a shield around me. Like, he's always watching me, like making sure, like, if I need something, like he's already getting it for me or something, like observing,
Yeah.
So that's an example. But I also think that when you're dating somebody, being a protector is also not like putting out any discussions or anything, especially because we live in a world where social media is a huge thing. Like, there's so many people that put people on blast, like, man, this girl or this guy. And I think that's very immature, and that is definitely not wise. And if a girl is with somebody and they put you on blast, not only with like their family or with your own family, and they just put all your dirty laundry out there on social media for the whole world to see, even your church to see, I think that is a form of disrespect, of dishonor, and also not protecting your heart at all, and who you are as a bride of Christ.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would share.
That's really good. And I love how you said that he wasn't always like that, right? Because it can be a learned trait. I think you get a glimpse of it, though. Like, you get to see it, like, is this person, can I see him becoming that person, or can I see this person, like, even having those character traits or not? So I think that's encouraging to hear too, like, that it doesn't necessarily have to start off super strong, but it's something that he worked on himself, right?
And they have to be the one willing to do it, because you can't change them. But if they have the heart to want to serve you and want to work on what you need. And again, he sees how other men in the church really take care of their wives and stuff. So he gleaned on that.
Yeah, that's really good. Shaquina?
That's good. No, protection is a huge thing for a woman, especially to feel protected, to feel safe, is huge. And I know that it goes a long way in a relationship. And I think when we think of the term protection, we think oftentimes of what the physical, you know, we think of someone who's super buff, you know.
And
So
that's
yeah,
cool too,
Yeah,
right?
that's cool too. That's fine. It's a good consolation, but no, it goes in all areas. It's protecting the heart. It's protecting the emotions. It's protecting the spiritual aspect of you. I think one of the most beautiful things that I hear men say to their wives is what reminds me to hold myself accountable is remembering that she's a daughter of Christ.
Which is what Pastor Abraham said.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just such a beautiful thing is that when you put yourself in that perspective, there is that responsibility of I need to protect that, her reputation, her heart, her children, her, you know, and it just becomes this, I don't know, it's so manly. Like, it really is.
It
It's
really
so, I'm
is.
just going to, like,
I think it's an honor.
it's a huge honor. I'm trying to make it sound all like, I'm trying to be like all mature about it, but the reality of it is a turn on.
Oh yeah. There's no better way to say it. Like
There's
if I
no
feel
better
like
way to say
if
it.
I feel like I can turn my brain off, like we're set, bro. Like say less.
It really is. It's so when I feel like I'm around a guy who I can just be myself
Yeah.
around, pursue the heart of God, and I just know that He's there. And at one point, the reason I married my husband, he had such a servant heart.
Yes.
And
that he did.
it breaks my heart that it didn't work out and that he was seduced by the enemy after our marriage. But I will say what led me to marry him and what led me to fall in love with him was he had such a call on his life of servitude. And he was very protective of me. And he was, even during worship, I remember there were times that I would kind of catch in the corner of my eye. My nieces and nephews they're always on me, right? Like I love my nieces and my nephew, but like they're always on me. And so during worship, like he knows that was my time to just be with God, right? And so I would catch in the corner of my eye him fighting off little kids, you know, just to keep me in that place and in that space of worship. And even little things like that, if he was protecting my time of worship with the Lord, he was protecting he was just protecting me in such a servitude way, you know. And like you said with Andre, he's constantly looking for ways. Are you okay? Do you need this? How can I take care of the baby today? And just constantly looking for ways to protect. And so that's really just, I don't know where I'm going with that.
No, but
But you see where I'm going. Yeah, cut me off. Feel free to cut me off because I've lost track and I'm keep going. But
No, that's really good. So when I heard this recently, and it gave me such a huge perspective, where they said the person that you're with should protect your holiness.
Yes.
And I was like, what? Like, of course, obviously, like you know that, but then it's like for example, I was listening to an interview, and there's this woman that I really look up to. Like in the faith, there's two people that are like known that I'm just like, dude, like I'll follow them, you know. And so this lady in particular, she was talking about how her reputation is when people go to her house, like they know that she protects God's presence in that place. And so then she's like, you know, a lot of pastors, for example, like their house is an open door, which is fine. Like some people are called to that. She's like, I'm not like that. And the reason for that is because I cultivate an atmosphere of the presence of the Lord. Like I'm not gonna allow just anything. And so why I'm saying that, because the role of a man is to create the place for the woman, right? To create the place for the family. And so what the man allows in, what the man tolerates, is the thing that's gonna infiltrate their home. And so I know that is a lot of pressure, but at the same time, I think that just speaks to the role of a man, how, and I'm honestly, I don't mean to like even hype you guys up for the sake of hyping you up, but it really is a glorious calling, because you guys have like this thing on your life where it's like, wow, like you get to lead a family, you get to hear from the Lord, like you get to go into the presence of God and get marching orders. Like that to me is so profound. You know what I mean? When I think about it in that way, it's like Jesus was that. Like Jesus was a super manly man, and he protects his family. And so to me, that is so Christ-like when a man protects his family. And you know, it's something that's engraved, but it's also something that's dug out. And the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of men have been burned, right? Especially in today's day and age, where it's like, you know, not a lot of men grew up with healthy dads or with strong fathers, because especially in my culture, or I should say in the Hispanic culture in general, men are either really weak or really machistas without depth. And so it's like, you do as I say, not as I do. And it's like, I'm sorry, like that's the biggest cop out ever that I've ever heard in my entire life. And so I think as a man, like, yeah, that is a lot of pressure. And I think a lot of men get really resentful when they have that, when they think of that role, because they're like, well, what is a woman going to bring to the table? But it's like, dude, like you're literally denying a part of yourself when you deny that part of you as a protector. And that's why, I mean, we can turn this political, we can turn this a lot of things, but that's why society is collapsing, because men aren't allowed to protect, and men are also like backing away from that because they haven't been honored in that way. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. And I think what we talked about in the last episode too, about how a woman needs to make herself available, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to women, you set the precedent. You really do. Women, you set the rules, you set the standards. You want a protective man, but you don't want to be protected because you're a strong, independent woman. You know what I mean? It's just, there's this unhealthy balance that's going on in the church, is that men are designed to protect and be protectors, and women are designed to flourish in that. And we talked about at one point in another episode of how men provide, women create. You know what I mean? Men provide the home, they provide the protection, the women create the home. You know what I mean? Or men provide the house, women create the home.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just when you recognize the roles that God so beautifully designed between men and women, and you start to enter into that with confidence, knowing who you are in Christ, it just creates just perfection and unity and just, I don't know how else to word it. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is beautiful. Ramzy. Hello. ¿Te estás durmiendo over there or what?
I'm here.
He's hitting switches.
What do you think?
About the protector, yeah, I think us guys, for sure we are designed to be that. Like even like the physically part, I think is pretty obvious. You know, like guys like can do more physically. You know, like with lifting a heavy weight or whatever. You know, obviously, right? Or
Carry my waters.
yeah, you know, there's that, and then protector of insecurities even. Yeah, like I understand. You know, we all have our insecurities.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, a woman may have a few, and if a man can turn those insecurities into a strength, that's a huge plus.
Ramsey, that's really good.
Yeah, yeah. I think us guys, I think that's a big part of the role of ours. Yeah.
That's so good. I hadn't thought about that.
I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking about insecurities too, and how a weak man would exemplify that in his wife or who he's dating with, you know, and call them out. But a strong man, someone that's strong within themselves, would be like, I'm going to protect you and nourish you in that area. You know, obviously help you with those insecurities, but I'm here. You know?
That's so good. I'd seen a video where, you know, kind of just bringing the, I keep hitting this freaking wire. I'm Salvadorian, so I speak with my hands a lot. It's a trait. So anyway, it was this couple, right? And they were just showing the give and take in a relationship, right? And so, for example, like the man came home and left his suitcase, his briefcase on the table and like something else. So then the woman came in and cleaned it up. But then it shows a video of the woman leaving out her, like a gym bag in the room, and the man coming in and cleaning it up. And so it's like, if we only pay attention to what we're doing, we miss out on what other people are doing for us. And so as women and as men, you know, we if we focus only on our role without understanding the reciprocation that there is, like I think that's when we become resentful of one another, right? But then when we, like you were talking about, like when we're flourishing, even in that, in both of those roles, and they're bringing in that, like that unity where now we become. I know I'm dropping out fire. It brings in that unity where where men would love to protect. You know what I mean? And then the women are like feeling vulnerable, but in a good way, where it's like, I'm happy to be here because, like you said, like, you know that Andre's eyes are always on you. And so I think that's like, honestly, that's really beautiful. Okay. Next one. She said, make sure you get somebody with good credit. And obviously what she was talking about was somebody that knows how to handle finances. So Shekinah, I'll let you take that one away.
So yeah, that's a huge thing. Someone good credit. You know, it's funny because I never considered credit score ever. I was born and raised in a Dave Ramsey home.
I was just thinking that. I was like, Dave
Yeah.
Ramsey says no credit score.
Yeah, no credit. I didn't have a credit
you have
score.
to live
By
with
the
it.
time I got older, I didn't have a credit. I had to build one once I got married because I was like, oh, we want to like get a house.
This is important,
This
yeah.
is important. And so, yeah, I didn't have that. And so, I mean, so I didn't really look at his because I didn't ever looked at mine. You know,
Yeah.
it was just not of concern for me. But so in that regard, but the handling of finances is absolutely key. And I think a good credit score shows that you know how to handle finances, because if you can manage that and you can keep that up, then you're intentional, you know. And I think that's the biggest thing, is someone who's intentional with their finances, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And it goes back to being a protector. To protect is to be able to provide.
Yeah.
And so if you can't provide for a family, you can't protect them. And so, yeah, finances play a huge role. In fact, it's talked about constantly that one of the number one reasons that people get divorced is because they can't agree on finances. That should absolutely be talked about in your dating relationship. And that should be absolutely taken into consideration when you marry this person. Are they a saver? Are they a spender? Can you come up with agreements? Can you come up with a budget? How do they currently spend money? And what do they currently spend money on? That's a huge thing. My sister was going out with a guy recently, and she was like, hey, what do you have? Like, what advice do you have? And like, because of what I went through, she was like, what do I look for? You know, like,
I'd love to help you.
yeah. And so I was like, at some point, I was like, not now, because you're still at the beginning of the relationship. I was like, but at some point, before you guys get serious, pull up bank statements. Where you spend your money.
What? No.
And I know that sounds crazy, but I was even looking it up and I was discussing it. Where you spend money is where you place your value.
Yeah.
If someone were to look at my bank statements, they'd be like, she shops at Shein a lot.
I was about to say something, but I ain't trying to get canceled.
You
yet.
know, but it sparks up a conversation, you know, of what they spend money on, what they place value on. Is he kind of guy that buys a lot of shoes, car parts, whatever it is, you know? And that can really help you see where this individual places value. And when I say that, it's not just women asking for the man's bank statements. You have to be willing to give yours. And again, that's why I'm saying it has to be.
I'm thinking of mine. What am
I know,
like?
exactly. But that's why I'm like, don't do it at the beginning of the relationship, like
right.
fork it over, you know what I mean? But at some point during the relationship, I think that's huge.
I think that's a great.
It's huge because where you spend money is where you place your value.
Yeah.
You can see, are they tithing? You can see where they're, you know, what they're doing. Are they regular? It's a huge thing for me. And so that's something that I didn't do in my relationship, but sorry guys, I will now. Sorry.
It's a requirement.
But at some point I think that's very big, because how you handle finances is really how you're gonna, in a huge way, display how you handle your marriage.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I am so glad that you talked about Dave Ramsey, because I took the Dave Ramsey course because I was not good at my finances at all.
I
Cut
would
up all
love
my
it though. It was
cards.
so much fun.
I know. I had completely no regard on my credit score. Like, who cares about my credit score? No one does. No one looks at that.
When will I need this?
When will I need this? And Dave Ramsey, like, you should have a 0 credit score, right?
Yeah.
Because you should buy everything cash, and this way you're not in debt, you know? But
Who's
then
gonna give me the cash?
but then,
Ramsey?
but then it's like, okay, Dave Ramsey, but how am I realistically going to get a house, you know? How am I realistically going to get a car? Like, so all these things came up. But my husband, again, he's really great with his credit score. Actually, if I tell you guys his credit score is excellent. When people look at his credit score, if they ever take it, oh, okay. Like, they don't even question him. Like, okay. Like, they give like that big old eye face. And I'm like, yeah. Then, like, you know, where's your credit score? It's like, oh. And I'm going to be completely honest. Even my family knows my credit score. Like, it was a joke. Like, they were like, dude, you're like in the 500s, maybe 400s.
Is this a zip code?
Yeah. They're like, this is really low. Yes, see, is it
Not a
just
zip
one
code,
number?
area code.
Number one? They would make fun of me. And then they're like, did you show Andre your credit score, Yessie? And they're like, how's his? And I'm like, it's excellent. They're like, oh, really? Did you show him yours? I'm like, yeah, you guys know what he did? Because, you know, we're married now. He added me to, like, one of his cards that he just used, and he's really good about paying things back, right? He just uses it for the points. And he added me to it, so my credit score is at excellent right now. And because of him. And he's like, I'm just going to put you on. Like, we're gonna change this.
It makes a difference. Like now my credit score is great, but yeah, when I first started, it was never a concern. Same thing. I was just like, but I always did pay with cash. That's why. Like I always pay. I saved up and I paid with cash, and I still have that mentality. But
Good, Chike. I like
it's good,
Yes.
but yeah, it's important.
It is really important. Absolutely, 100%.
You want to share your credit score?
I have excellent credit score. The Lord is good. He redeemed my life. Praise God.
Praise the Lord. I'm clapping. I clapped. Praise the Lord. I'm happy for you, friend. What are you talking about?
That was so cute.
Last time we checked, our credit score was not excellent. So the fact you said it so, like, without laughing.
Yeah.
Are you being sarcastic? Oh,
That
okay.
was just a cute little clap. Like you went.
Just proud of her friend.
I was just so proud of her. Oh my God.
That was so funny. That was so cute. No, but there was a point where I was struggling really badly. So yeah, she and I together. And I even told Capital One, I was like, never, don't you ever give me a credit card again. Please, I'll pay you. I'll call you. Like, what's your number? Like, please stop. And the lady just laughed. And she was like, sure. But they be still, they're coming after me still. So I don't know what
they
the
know.
heck. They know.
Yeah.
No more credit cards for me. Never. But anyway, yeah, my credit score was terrible. But, you know, through the grace of God, here we are. But no, I do want to say that there are seasons that we struggle, right? Like Melissa not last year, the year prior, I didn't know what was going on with my finances because there's times where, you know, we're just growing and everything, but it's the intentionality to get out of the hole, right? And I think that displays a lot of character. But that statement thing, like,
You wild, Shake.
Wow.
This is the 30 flirty.
30 and thriving.
Yes, this is her.
I mean, it's really good advice,
Yeah.
but
I think so. I
Ramsey,
think
what
so.
would you have done if your wife was like, show me your bank
Show me your bank
statements?
statements.
That's a curveball.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's straight up. Like, I'll just call it as it is. Like, whoa, like that's a curveball.
It's definitely intimate. I mean, you're really getting to know this person.
Yeah, yeah. If it was like just clear it out. Like, it's just my opinion, but like it just depends on the phase of the relationship.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
of course, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's early on in the dating and they're like already asking.
First date question.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm out, you know,
God,
straight up. But if things are getting serious, I think I can understand.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Well,
but
this is the person, especially when you're really talking about marriage, it's the person you're going to share a bank
yeah,
bank account with, or
Yeah.
should, you know.
yeah,
And so
yeah. Well, yeah, I will have to. I'll be like, okay, well, let me open up my app real quick,
Yeah.
and then here you go. You know, as a dude, I think because there's pressure on us guys.
Yeah. Back to the
With
protector
money.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, there's more pressure on us. And I'll admit, and when I was younger, I was not.
Oh,
I didn't care about my finances or credit
I
or
got paid to
anything.
party.
Yeah, and I am not ashamed to admit this, but my wife actually helped me a lot with my finances.
Okay.
Yeah, and she continues to help me.
Get it, girl. I know a lot of couples like that.
Yeah, well, Dave Ramsey always says and this is me, there's a spender, right? Like the free flow person, and then there's the person who budgets.
Yeah,
There's always one or the other. Like, that's what makes a good team.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I think I'm the spender of the relationship. Yeah.
As we are using all of your equipment. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've learned a lot, you know. And it's not I believe there's nothing wrong with that if your own wife is showing you like, hey, yo.
No, definitely
not at all.
No, today's society, you know, it's modern, you know. Yeah, but I have been, you know, like other guys that are a little bit more, you know, old school. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? You know, like she's showing you how. And I'm
How are
like,
you ever
bro.
gonna learn?
You know
Yeah.
what though? The Proverbs 31 woman knows how to manage finances. That's
Yeah.
what it says in the Old Testament.
Yeah, I have fallen into that situation, but kind of funny, you know, like, well, I bet. I don't want to sound messed up, but
No,
I
say
put
it.
him on blast. I put
Say
this
it.
dude. I'm not gonna drop no name, obviously.
Do it. Check the comments.
When I was told that, I was like, I
You guys should see him.
bet.
He's sweating right now.
I bet my wife's credit score is better than.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's how you just throw a punch.
Dang, right to the throat.
Yeah, I'm not. Am I proud to say that, or am I?
You should.
You
I
should
mean,
be.
that's
It's
your
your
wife.
wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
your
what?
wife,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
as a protector, I was.
That's
No, I was
right.
kidding. Yeah.
No, but Ramsey, I think that's a really good point because again, like I'm not being hyperbolic when I say like I know a lot of couples where the woman is the one that's in charge of the
Yes.
finances.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like in charge as in like
They control it.
yeah, a controlling way.
Like I
but-
get an allowance type
yeah,
thing.
like it's not that. It's like, you know, one person takes charge, and that happens in any situation
Basically,
like that.
like a financial advisor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
which
what
is,
it is.
but I think I would rather be put in that position than find out that you were creating this entire freaking mess and never even let me know. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah,
like,
yeah.
can you please have just, if you would have just communicated with me, like we could have helped one another, you know? Like, I think as a woman, like the worst thing that you could ever do to me is keep me out of a situation. It's like, would you agree? Like in your marriage, can you imagine if like, and of course, like there's things with like men where manly things, right? I get that. Like you're not gonna trauma dump on your wife either. But at the same time, it's like, if there's a situation, like, can you please just let me know? Like,
Oh yeah, we're meant to be their helpers.
Yeah, Mhm. so
Like
it's
I'm
like-
here. I'm here for you. Like anything you need. If I can't help you financially, I'm gonna help you by praying.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna find a way.
yeah.
Yeah, what like I think we said this on the last episode where I opened up, you know, to my
Oh,
wife
yeah.
when we were dating. You know, I told her straight up, you know, like, hey, I'm like this, I'm like that, I got this, my baggage basically. And she didn't hold it against me. She understood my situation. Like, oh, you probably didn't have someone, the example in your
Yeah.
family or your siblings or I don't know, parents didn't really show you that. And
Right.
she didn't hold that against me. He's like, well, lucky for you, I have some knowledge on that, you know. Yeah.
She's like, look at
she
that.
has
Already
game.
an answer
She
for
has
Yeah,
game.
it wasn't you, Ramsey.
It wasn't me,
her.
the one with the game.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was her. Yeah.
We gotta get her on the podcast. Yeah, that's really good. I love that you even brought in that perspective because it's nothing that I think, because to us, it's just no big deal. It's like,
No,
Dude,
I mean, because it's like I said, Dave Ramsey really like says that like it's not controlling. It's just okay. I'm gonna be the one. I'm very administrative. I'm gonna do the budget. I'm gonna keep an eye. And then the free spender just changes one thing on the thing just to feel like they have a say so. And
what
that's
you want to put on your
Yeah.
baby? What you want?
so
what
like
you want to call
for
this
me,
line?
it's like where's my coffee budget, you know?
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
add that, and then I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
and
mom is the one that
also
takes care of our finances.
Yeah, exactly. Also, my wife has told me too. Like, it's kind of funny. Like Shekinah said, is like when you could be a little bit more submissive, it's kind of like a turn on to the female, right? And my wife actually told me that, like when she realizing like, oh, like okay, you're getting better at this, you know, like I could actually like submit more to you
Yeah.
with at least with the finances now more. And she literally said that's a turn on.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And the vine is getting sexy. I was thinking that earlier when she said it's a turn on. I was like, oh, we're getting sexy.
I love it.
The intro to is it in the vine dating?
Who's in the Vine,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, that's sexy.
Yeah, with the
okay.
campfire, with the Who's in the Vine. Yeah, you guys are gonna see that. Oh wait, you already saw it. This is the second
Yes.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Caitlin, our intern. You the best, girl. Okay, so the third thing that she said was you have to set up boundaries to get the type of person you deserve. She didn't put it in those exact words, but paraphrased it. That one was a little bit. Honestly, a lot of the things that I heard from both hers and Pastor Abraham, some of them were like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
because
so true.
you know, before we started this whole thing, I was like, yes, absolutely. I would have been, but like when you're doing life, am I
Lord
right?
test you.
The Lord tests you, and all of a sudden, you know, it's not a cookie cutter. Like it's not. It's so weird because not every what is it? One of you guys have said it. There's not one relationship. Every relationship is different.
There's no one size fits all
There
for a
you go.
relationship.
And so, you know, it's tough, but, and I'm surprised that I'm even saying this to this piece of advice that she gave, but it's absolutely true. Like, what you tend to tolerate is the thing that you're gonna end up with. And so if you don't think that there's a man like that out there or a woman out there, that fits the criteria that you have, then you're not going to get that partner. And so what did you ladies think of that?
I'm so glad she said it. And you guys both agreed in the interview, I remember, that setting boundaries is healthy, right? When done the right way. And the way she explained this is she's like, I know what I don't want because I've seen it and I grew up in it. And she's like, and I'm going to be so firm in this and say, this is what I want. Like either you got it or you don't. And I think that is a place of maturity. Because there's sometimes, let's just say, because we're millennials, right? Let's just say if Channing Tatum came in here, right? And like for the single girls, they were like, I don't care how he is, like I'm taking Channing Tatum. Like I don't care how he acts, you know? But what if he was like everything that you didn't want? And you just let your boundaries go because you're just enamored, you know? And a lot of girls can get like that.
Oh, yeah, it's so easy.
It's so easy because guys, and I'm not saying every guy's Channing Tatum, but I'm just saying, like, what if he walks the walk, talks the talk, but he's not about it at the very end? It's going to be heartbreaking. So that's why it's like you got to really set those boundaries, because at the very end, when they say, okay, I want to marry you, and you're like, but there's so many red flags everywhere. And I'm just going to say yes. Like, we really have to be strong and love ourselves and say, okay, no, I'm not even willing to give you a second date.
Yeah.
And some people have boundaries of like, hey, like this is what I require in a relationship. And I think it's totally valid, because if you don't want to seek that relationship, like she said, then what's the point of you like getting to know me?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. She was like, I would cut it off. Cut it off at the pass. What do you think, Shekinah?
Well, I can go off on boundaries. I think the key thing to remember about boundaries is not about what other people, how you can manage other people, right? Boundaries is self-responsibility. And we have to remember that. When you set a boundary, you are enhancing your values, your morals, your walk with the Lord. And when you do that, you permit healthy relationships into your life. A good key component when setting a boundary and knowing that it's a healthy boundary and not about manipulating or controlling the people around you is, can you set these things without anyone's permission, if that makes sense? And so I think with boundaries, you have to remember that going back to what Adriana was pretty much stating was, when you set boundaries, you filter in healthy relationships, and you filter in healthy friendships, and ultimately a dating relationship as well.
Yeah.
And so I remember setting boundaries, like learning that role, I think in my early 20s was one of the most difficult things, because when I started setting boundaries for the first time in my life and saying no to certain things, I started to find the people in my life who were only my friends because I didn't have boundaries. And that's a really difficult thing to learn. And it really helped weed out, though, people who I found out were just taking advantage of me. And but it was a healthy thing. It filtered out certain people that were no longer moving into that new season with me.
Yeah.
And like one of the things that I am so big on is being honest all the time about everything, brutally, bluntly honest. And a lot of people that's a turnoff for, especially people who don't have that boundary of being honest all the time. And as a result, I don't always make the most friends. I'm not the person that you right away connect with, especially if we have a disagreement. I can be friends with you if we have a disagreement, as long as we're willing to be honest about those disagreements. Some people can't do that, and that's fine. But it has permitted me to be friends with people who are brutally honest.
Yeah.
And I think that I have the most valuable friendships as a result of that, is I am not willing to withhold that boundary.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to withhold being honest with other people, because I know that it's going to filter in other honest people into my life.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it's done.
That's good. I like how you even brought the perspective of like different relationships.
Yeah.
Because it's truly important. Like, you need to set those kind of boundaries up. And I'm sure even things that you would tolerate before, as you mentioned, like once you start moving into different phases of your life, now those boundaries are different, right? Like,
and boundaries can shift.
Yeah, they shift.
Some
They're
should be
seasonal. Yeah,
some should be absolutely concrete.
Yeah.
But some boundaries shift with time, and that's completely okay.
Yeah, because your life changes.
Yeah.
Your life changes. You mold into whatever season that you're in.
Yeah, you realize what works and what didn't work.
And so one of the things that I appreciated was that she gave an example, right? She's like, sarcasm, like I can't take that. And so that is a way of setting a boundary. It's like, okay, like if a man is going to be sarcastic with me and avoid any sort of intimate conversation or anything of that nature, then that to me is going to be a red flag. Because to me, and again, like not me personally, but just in perspective of what she's saying, like because of what I've experienced, I cannot handle that in my relationship. I'm not willing to walk through with somebody when it comes to that. And so it's like, I think that's one of the things is like, what are you not willing to walk through with somebody? And I think that would determine what something is. Like, I think for me, it's like somebody that, I don't know, I can't think of things, but I think they're just way too personal right now. What about you, Ramzy? What do you think about what Pastor Adriana said?
Boundaries. The first thing that comes to my mind is when my mom would always tell me, la mujer, el hombre nomás llega donde la mujer lo permita.
Oh, yeah, permita.
Yeah, which in English is like the guy will go as far as the woman lets him.
Yeah.
And that always stuck with me growing up. And since that I resonated with that, I set boundaries for myself too as well. Boundaries, maybe tolerance can go with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe you can tolerate certain things at a certain time, and then your patience run low, and then you longer don't want that in your life anymore, and then that's a boundary right there.
Yep.
That automatically right there, and probably a boundary you didn't realize because you were tolerating it so long, and you had enough, and now that's a boundary, kind of like Melissa was saying, like that. I think boundaries are it's a standard to have in a relationship, big time. Kind of like what my mom would say, because like, yeah, in society, a guy kind of wants one thing, in a relationship, and like as a woman, you have a job, set your standards, set your boundaries, and let the guy know right away, like ain't about that, basically.
Yeah.
And you're gonna respect me. Like if you really like me like that, then you're gonna have to respect me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in Christianity, I would venture off to say that it's a lot harder because our boundaries are a lot more strict, right?
Compared to the world, yeah.
Compared to the world's way, it's a lot. And I'm not saying that there's not worldly people out there that have like that have similar things, right? But I think it's more consistent in a Christian faith. I know for me, there's definitely a lot of challenges that present itself with that. But at the same time, it's having to remind yourself why they were put there in the first place, right? Always remembering the why, always remembering why it's important, and always remembering like who's looking up to you. Like when I think about, for example, like my nieces growing up and stuff, like the moment that I let go of a boundary, I lose out my ability to be able to influence them. Like, no, it can't be done, right? And so, we talked about legacy in the interviews, and we talked about legacy in other podcasts that we've done, and so. I think it's difficult sometimes it's difficult to stay true to boundaries, but when you think about everything that's at stake, when those boundaries are broken, I think you can remember why it's important to stick to those boundaries. Like paying attention to the things that are at stake, I think really makes it more worthwhile to stay within those boundaries. So yeah, if you have boundaries and you get rejected because of those boundaries, good. You're welcome. They did their job. Literally, that's why you put them in the first place. And yeah, it's going to keep you lonely sometimes, probably, but it doesn't mean that it won't come with a reward. So stay true, stay strong.
The army wants you.
Uncle Sam.
Yeah. We want you.
You guys, it's 9:51 p.m. when we're recording this, okay?
We gotta keep going.
Yeah. So, excuse what's about to pop off right now. Okay, so the last thing that she said was that opposites attract. I feel like this is such a movie thing, but it's a true thing. Like, opposites really do attract. So, okay, so, Yessie, are you and Dre opposites?
Definitely. I feel like there's many times.
Just keep going. Good.
I feel like there's many times where he's very like stern in some opinions that he has, and even in the workplace, and he actually comes and brings them to me, and he's like, okay, I need a little bit more compassion. So he's like, I learned compassion from you. I learned to not be selfish, to like do things for other people. And from him, I actually learned, yes, it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no sometimes. I also learned it's okay not to spend stuff on everything. And
Oh
then
my gosh,
sometimes I learned, like, it's okay to spend money. Like, he tries to buy me clothes and stuff. I'm like, I don't really need it. He's like, well, I would want you to have something that you like. Or like today, he's like, let's go to Sephora and buy you some makeup. And I was like, I can just get it online. And then I thought, like, no, like,
Like your mom said, don't say no.
yeah, so there's a lot of things that we learn from each other. And, even Pastor Adriana, she just told us, I think, yesterday, a few days ago, she said, your daughter is literally the both of you. She said, at the very beginning, she's like her dad, like, kind of hard to read, like, very, very just like, just straight faced,
Yeah.
And then at the very end, she's like, hi.
Yeah, she's
Hi.
so cute.
And she's like, that's Yessie, hi,
Yeah.
And so she's like, you're always smiling and being so kind. So I think it's a good mesh.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I'm seeing my daughter and I'm like, she's perfect in my eyes,
Yeah.
So I'm like, she's perfect. So both her parents are there. And then also my husband's so disciplined, like extremely disciplined. And I am not. Like my husband, okay, I know the roles are usually reversed. And again, I was talking to Pastor Adriana about this at Coffee Bean the other day, about how both of our husbands, like their closets are clean. Like my husband's closet is organized not only by material, but by use.
Material?
Yeah, like pants, and then the material, and then if it's work or going out, and then by color. And it's organized so well. And right now we have like a walk-in closet, but we're sharing like some areas. And so my clothes are compared to his clothes, and I'm like, my clothes just whatever fits,
You're lucky
like
you're
at
lucky
least
it's
it's
on a
hanging.
hanger.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm trying my best to like put my jeans with his jean jackets and like just organizing it by color. And to him, he's just like, you're gonna take forever. I might as well just do it for you. I've been waiting for you to ask.
Oh no.
Or like, let's say I have my jacket in the kitchen and it's on the bar stool, and he's like, I just put it in your room. I hung it for you.
Oh no.
Yeah. And other wives are like, oh my gosh, my husband leaves his socks everywhere. I wish he was like that. He could just throw them in the hamper. And I'm like, yeah, my husband's the one that tells me, your socks are everywhere. And I'm like,
It's like one sock.
where's my hamper? I don't know. Like,
You have a hamper?
yeah, so and then he's so disciplined in fitness, and that's an area that I really like. When I'm in the zone, I'm in the zone. I love
yeah.
it, and I really like it. But if there's a moment that I have to take a break for whatever reason, like I'm taking the break. And my husband's like, no breaks for me. He's like, I don't care what time it is, I have to go to the gym. He's like almost dying, and he's like, I'm gonna go to the gym. He would run the hills because he had a goal to make,
Yeah.
And it was like 100 and something degrees. Like we literally would have to go drive to go find him to just make sure he was okay. And he was fine. But again, he's so disciplined and I'm not. So I learned from it. And then like he takes his protein shakes, his supplements every day. Like your girl, like when I was pregnant, it's like, you're lucky I'm taking my prenatals. Like,
Oh my God.
like it was like things that I just never did. Or you're lucky I'm drinking water, So my husband, he's on top of it. He's like, I have your vitamins here. I have your water here. So I'm learning a lot from him, and I'm really pushing through. So I love that you can be with somebody who's an opposite. And I think at the very beginning of a relationship, you don't see it as much. I mean, it just depends.
Yeah, that
guess.
makes sense. I really do appreciate what she said, that you're attracted to, she said, you're attracted to what you don't have naturally. But once you're married, the very thing that attracts you is the very thing that will try to come and divide you. I thought that was so profound because a lot of, I know that we even joked around when we used to live together, and even my roommate and I, we joke around right now. We're like, because we all have such different personalities, like down to a T. And we're like, dude, like, you're lucky. I'm preparing you.
Yeah,
I'm preparing you for your
future
husband. Yeah. And
That's really true.
and it really is true, and just in so many different ways that I don't have the time to break down. But absolutely, I think being able to find somebody that, as the word says, and Pastor Abraham said it in his interview, where it's like iron sharpens iron. And so it's learning to pull out what's the opposite, but at the same time complements you well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think being able to do that is beautiful, because if you just marry somebody that thinks like you, walks like you, likes only the things that you like, then it becomes really boring and there's no really spice and you're not growing. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
I think it goes back. I think it just shows how amazing our God is and how he designed men and women. Because when you go to Malachi, we see that the purpose of marriage is to raise godly children. That's the very purpose and heart of marriage is to build the next generation of godly individuals. And so if you keep in mind that that is the goal of marriage, it creates balance in the home, because you can't be all things.
Yeah.
So when you have a spouse who matches and complements your strengths or your weaknesses, it creates balance for your children so that they can grow up in a healthy environment.
Yeah, and I just, again, bringing it back to being single and being able to practice this, like I remember there was a time where I was leading a group and I was getting so frustrated because their response didn't look the way that I wanted it to look. And I thought I was being holy. I'm like, no, they should be like responding this way and this way. And then the Lord corrected me. And the Lord told me, he was like, why are you trying to make these people into your image? They were made in my image. And I was like, I think I already shared this story, but I think to me it was so profound because it's like, we always, not always, but I think it's just like this thing that we try to do without knowing, where it's like we try to make the people around us like us because that's what we can understand. Yeah. But putting ourselves in a situation where we get to learn and understand why they're like that, I think that there creates such a synergy in those type of spaces, right? And so as single people, we can learn to do that at work. We can learn to do that with friends. We can learn to do that in everything because things aren't always going to be your way. And one of the most humbling things that you can learn is that other people are doing that for you as well. Other people also have to learn to tolerate your behaviors. Other people also have to learn to take the good and the bad because I'm sorry to break it to you, sweetie, you are not perfect. I am not perfect. And so having to learn that my way of thinking wasn't the only correct way of thinking, that to me was super humbling because I had to be like, oh my gosh, like I definitely have to stop and listen to other people's perspective and understand that it's good, So definitely do that.
That's so good because that's what Pastor Adriana shared too. And she's like, I had to realize like I'm not always right.
Yeah.
And then you're like, but you are,
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's crazy. It's so funny.
But it's true. I love that you share the whole roommate perspective because my sister's husband is very similar to me.
Really?
And the whole time we were living together, I would always say, like, just so you know, I'm preparing you for your husband. And she's like, well, then I'll be preparing you for yours. And it's funny because her and my husband, like, when we're like at the same house, like they're over, they're like laughing because they're like, yeah, like, yes, my sister finishes his sentence. Like, she's doing this, huh? And then he's like, yeah. And she's like, yeah. And then me and her husband, we're the chill people, you know, like they're like, if I want something done, I'm gonna do it now. And they'll get it done. And we're like, well, tomorrow. We're cool, like we don't take life so serious, I'd rather have fun. Ooh, I'm distracted. Let's make a craft, like. And then he's like very like creative or like likes to do fun stuff, activities. So it's just really funny just to see that dynamic. But you really do get prepared, and the craziest things. It might be a coworker, it might be a roommate, it might be your sibling. So
yeah. So keep a lookout for those opportunities because the Lord is always building us
exactly
in one way or another. Last thing that I wanted to touch on, it wasn't one of the non-negotiables, but one thing that she said was, because we did talk about soul ties, which I hope we will get into it in a different episode because that is an important topic. And I think a lot of the reasons why a lot of us deal with lingering emotions and lingering things that from ex-boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever. But what she said was, this, because in Christianity and in biblical means and ways, you should only be sleeping with your spouse, right? Because the two become one flesh. And as we talked about in the interview, it's like, your brain and the principle of only, of what the Bible says is like, that the two shall become one flesh. Your brain doesn't understand that it's only with the person that you marry, like by paper, covenant, whatever. It's the person that you have intercourse with. And so if you have, and I know that it doesn't make sense, but I promise you it does make sense when you think about it. But like if you have, let's say 10 different partners and those 10 different partners you had sex with, that means that you became one with this person, with number one. Now you have one in you, for lack of a better term.
No.
I mean, that's the only way that
That's the
I
only way
can
to
think
put it,
about
but no,
it.
sure, it's a part of them.
Yeah, like there's a
them.
part of them in you. I'm sorry. Like I said, it's about to be 11. And so now you bring in the other person and then another person. So now you're so like jacked up. And so there is a physical, there is a science behind this, literal science behind being intimate with only one person. And so can we be redeemed? Yes, we beat that to a pulp in the interview with Pastor Adriana. There is redemption, there is liberation, there's deliverance and all that good stuff. But what she brought up was she wanted. Sorry.
I think it's great what you're sharing because it reminds me of cleansing stream.
Yeah.
It was like the whole hand holding, like if you sleep with Johnny and Johnny slept with Caitlin and then Caitlin had like 3 partners, you're sleeping with all of those people's baggage and all of the demons they carry and everything that they're exposed to.
Yeah.
And it's a scary thought after you think about that. Like obviously, number one, like you got to repent if you've done that in the past. Like obviously God redeems and he's here, but there is, regardless of what it is, like even though you ask for forgiveness and you repent, there's still going to be consequences to it. So you have to be prepared to work with it and for it. And then it is going to try to attack you even in your marriage.
Yeah.
And there's going to be obviously redemption again in your marriage. But this very thing, I know this is what Denise gave me as advice because we were struggling, my husband and I, while we were dating. And so I went up to her because she has great advice. And she said, the very thing the enemy's going to try to get you into bed, but when you're married, he's going to try to get you out. So like there's that battle, you know? So definitely make sure you're trying to be as pure as possible. And I think it's on the notes too, to make sure that you practice all of this in your singleness, you know? Like making sure that you work on all of this, cleaning yourself up from even the prior people you've slept with, because again, you don't know who they slept with, the baggage that they all carry, and all of that.
Yeah, and it is scary, but again, like it's very serious stuff. But what the last thing that she sorry, I keep trying to get to is, she talked about that root issue. Like if you're listening to this and you're like, Melissa, like how is somebody ever gonna love me if I don't give them my body or if I don't have sex with them? How am I ever gonna know if we're compatible? Yada 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 yada. Victor Marx, who is somebody that I look up to personally. He and his wife have an amazing ministry. And one of the things that he said was, when he met his wife, with other relationships, he hadn't done it the right way, but he and his wife, Eileen, when they met, they wanted to do things correctly. And so he said that, they didn't sleep together before marriage. And so one day he was, I think, with his brother, and he told his brother that, and his brother was like, well, how are you going to know the product, like, if you don't test drive it? And so then he was like, because his brother's like really into cars and stuff. And he was like, if somebody were to come to you and say, I forgot what car he used, but for the sake of the story, I'm going to say Ferrari. He was like, if somebody were to come to you and tell you, you can have this Ferrari right off the lot, you don't have to, like, here are your keys, whatever. Would your response be, oh, I want to test drive it? You're going to say no, because you know a Ferrari, you know what they're made of, you know where they come from, you know the manufacturer. And so he's like, that's the exact same way that I feel about my future wife. I know who the maker is, which is obviously God. And so I don't need to test drive the for lack of a better word, the product when I already know the maker. And so since he was going to her through God, he already knew that whatever was going to be built with her, whether it was physical attraction, emotional attraction, mental attraction, and that stability, it wasn't rooted on her looks only, on that kind of intimacy only, but it was rooted in the Lord. And so when you know that somebody is made in God's image and you know that marriage is a constitution that came from God, then you're going to put the value on that. You're going to know that, I forgot, I think it was with Adriana, we talked about this. It's like, and it's, for some reason, it's so hard for Christians to hear this. God was the one that created sex. Like in Genesis, it was like literally the first like 5 or 6, I think it was chapter 6, not even 6 chapters in, and he's already talking about go ahead and multiply the world. And because that's God's purpose. Like he wants us to enjoy things, but inside of a godly covenant. And that is what truly keeps us safe. Like, be able to have that vulnerability with somebody. And so I know that the world's like, says, that intimacy and that the reason why you crave that intimacy, it's, you got to really look into the root issues as to why you're willing to give up that intimacy so quickly and why you're so ready to give that over to somebody just so that you can get them to love you. But it's like, if that's what you're basing their attraction on, then you're already selling yourself short, and there's something deep inside of you that's awfully broken. And I don't say that in a derogatory way where it's like, girl or boy, like you're jacked up. I mean that like, I'm so sorry. Like there's a real damage inside of you that needs to be taken care of. And I'm so sorry that there was nobody in your life that gave you that value or that didn't show you the value for that. Like, at least for me, I didn't have, my parents told me, don't have sex, or my mom told me, don't have sex before marriage, because God hates that. And that's it. That's all the information that I got. And so, as I mentioned in that story, in the interview, it's like, I didn't have a relationship with God. So why did I care? Like, I didn't want to go to hell. That's what I cared about. I didn't want to go to hell. But then at the end of the day, it's like, that wasn't enough for me at some point because I didn't have an intimacy with God. I didn't value myself. And so, as women, more than anything, I think finding that intimacy with God is so crucial. I remember listening to this doctor. He's like, if you need to be told that you're pretty, it's because you haven't spent enough time with the Lord. And that to me was like, geez, like that is so good, because if I'm waiting on the fickleness of a man to come and declare my worth to me, then I'm already in a bad space. I'm gonna already have like this anxiety where it's like, oh, he didn't compliment the way that I look today. Like, does this mean that I didn't make it? Like, I don't look good today. Like, I spent so much time on this and that. But when I know that I'm rooted in God's image, then whether he tells me I'm beautiful or not, it doesn't change the way that I feel about myself. Obviously, it's nice to hear those things, right? And I'm not saying it's not nice and it's not needed. I'm not saying that at all. But from the right person, like when I know that when I enter into a marriage covenant, I'm going to want to hear that from my husband. I'm going to want to enter, and I'm going to want to share that with him as well. But if it's some blow Joe and he's not telling me like I'm beautiful, or he's only telling me I'm beautiful because he wants to get one thing, then it's already circumstantial, right? Like if I withhold intimacy from him, then he's gonna use my insecurities against me. So then at that point, it's like, okay, well, at this point, you're just pimping yourself out, essentially, And I know that sounds really tough to hear, but society has created this thing where, and I know we talked about it before, where we talk about like women empowering, being like the sexual revolution and stuff, but that is like the biggest scam ever, like the biggest scam of the enemy, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that have the worst consequences when it comes to, sleeping around and all that stuff. But so if that's you, like if you can't see yourself not finding somebody without giving them sex outside of the boundaries of sex, then I really just want to invite you, like, have that real conversation with yourself and be like, did I ever have that love of a father where it was genuine and it was healthy and it was secure? Did my mom ever show me that I had worth? Did my mom ever demonstrate that to me, like what a woman looks like, what a woman should be? And if not, then surround yourself around women that can help bring that out of you. Like, community is essential to find worth and to find value. So with that being said, to close it off, Ramzy, any last words? I'm sorry.
No. No last words. You guys are just hitting right on the dot
Okay.
with the pointers.
Thanks, Ramses. Shaquina.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything that you were saying. And I waited until my wedding night and I don't regret it at all, even despite what happened.
Yeah.
And so for those of you women who have waited, and I know there was a period in my walk with the Lord where I was embarrassed by that because I was made to feel embarrassed by that. And so I never told anybody. I never talked about it. And it wasn't until I started going, wait a minute, this should be talked about, that I started talking about it. And I had so many women go, oh my gosh, I wish I would have waited. And the women who had been waiting finally were able to talk about it as well. And it created a community to talk about it and to stop, shoving it under the rug. As Pastor Adriana said, the church doesn't seem to talk about this a whole lot, or if they do, it's completely in an inappropriate way. It's condemnation. And I love how she just really hit on God. We serve and we worship a God of redemption.
Yeah.
So when you hear us talking about the severity of this, it's not to condemn you. It's not to send you to hell. It's not to make you feel gross, but it's to remind you of your worth and your value and the things that God has created you to do and be in a relationship. To wait. My goal has always been to be faithful to my husband even before I met him. That was always a goal of mine. That was something my parents always taught me, is be faithful to your husband before you even meet him. And that held me accountable to a lot of things. I remember, and I know we'll talk about this at some point, I struggled with pornography in my early 20s. And what held me accountable to breaking free from that and taking the steps to get an accountability partner and to really cut that out of my life was the Lord reminded me you are not being faithful to your husband. I didn't even know my husband at the time, but the Lord reminded me that you are not being faithful to your husband. You're not being faithful to me. And that was the accountability. That was what I needed to go, oh, I should not be doing this. I should. And that's what really broke that off of me. And that's what got me to get help.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so for those of you who are struggling, whether it's with lust, whether it's pornography, whether it's with sleeping around or sleeping with somebody that you're currently with, you can stop. You can absolutely stop. And I know it's not always going to be easy because that means you're going to have to break off some relationships. You're going to have to break some bad habits. But I swear to you, it is so worth it, and it's so freeing, and it breaks you free from so much condemnation, so much lust, so much shame, and what you've been holding on to in secret, you can now let go of. And again, accountability is key into that. Get accountability. If men find a man who you know is walking out in purity with his wife and who can help you with that. Women find women who can help you walk in purity as well. This is something that it can be a beautiful testimony. Don't be scared. Don't feel condemned. If you're listening to this at all and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, that's me, or you're feeling angry even, oftentimes anger is your flesh fighting against the spirit, so be aware of that as well. You can break free from this. You absolutely can, and there's so much beauty in breaking free from this because we worship a God of redemption.
Yeah. Period.
Period.
What about you? Yes.
I think there's just so much into this, and I know that
Yeah.
we said we were going to talk about it because I know that Pastor Adriana even says your sexuality and you know everything. Sorry, sexuality is connected to the nations too.
Yeah.
And it's just so much more in depth. So just know that your purity, there's such an attack on it because it's so needed.
Yes.
And once you live it out, you're gonna understand it. But right now, if you're in an area that you're like, I want to try it, just know it's not gonna be easy because it's gonna be like you're gonna have withdrawals. You're gonna
The entire world is geared at sexual liberty. Like
commercials, everything. It sells.
everything. You're the outlier when you're not having sex. Like that's when you're the one that's looked down upon. Like the world is celebrating the emancipation of sex, and it's like, it's hard. But if it was hard, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
And so, we just want to encourage you. As we've said from day one, this ain't easy. But it's definitely worth it when you think about the future. That's what happens, sex right now and sexual intimacy right now with whatever Joe Blow is temporary gratification. Because if you were to be honest with yourself after the fact, you're probably you go through these crazy highs and lows. And so if you think about the future, it's like, what kind of life do I want? And what is this action right now leading me to? I think that in itself should sober you up to what kind of decisions you should make right now. And so we're praying for you. We know that this is not an easy thing to say or to hear. Honestly, it's very difficult to break out of because there's lust in everything. There's lust in everything. And so, however, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, not by power nor by might, but by my spirit, says the Lord. And so what that means, if you allow the Holy Spirit to come inside of your life and you allow him to become the Lord of your life, then there will be freedom. There's a scripture that says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. It's guaranteed. It's right there. It's a promise in the Bible. You just have to do the work, but you just have to allow yourself to be led. So the Lord will not give you a task without giving you the ability to fulfill it.
Amen.
So reach out to us if you're struggling. I know we're 4 girls with Denise. Who are we, right? But we definitely have a heart for this because I think we've definitely been played by the world when it comes to this, and we have a fervency when it comes to see people set free from that. And if you're a man and you want to hear about you just want freedom from this, then hit us up. We know men that can help you through this. We say that legitimately with all of our hearts and with all honor of confidentiality. Honestly, we're here to help you because we understand that your legacy is at stake here. So stay blessed. Thank you so much for stay blessed. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, I forgot to say it in the last episode. Pray for your single friends because it's hard out here. Thank you, Ramzy, for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.
And Denise,
We miss you.
we miss you,
miss
girl. Bye.